You need to be at the classes. You need to write notes. You need to get the material. And if you're falling behind, you need to get your ass up and go. Because if you don't, you're going to
Right.
fail. That happened. My class went from a class of like 56 people to 31 people. People got knocked out of this thing because of those classes because they just weren't able to keep up, or the subject material just like it was going too fast for them. I know there were some people I knew who were struggling.
Como ça va and que pasa? Welcome to In the Pocket with Jay Bo. I'm your host, Jay Boudoin, and today's episode, we're going to be talking about how earning your MBA while working full time is something you can actually accomplish. Our special guest today happens to be my oldest son, Casey Philip Boudoin. Casey recently graduated from the University of New Orleans with his MBA in the executive program. And Casey, welcome to the program today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me here.
Absolutely. So you and I talked about broaching this subject a while back and having a podcast about it. So tell us about your background a little bit from high school on.
So I went to high school. I went to was Holy Cross High School, where I actually had like a fun experience of going after Hurricane Katrina. So I was in trailers for a good 2 years, but I was in there from fifth grade to 12th grade. Had a lot of great friends, a lot of great experiences. Kind of like really kind of helped shape me into the person I ended up becoming. When I started college, I had my first 2 years at UL Lafayette. It was the first 2 years alone, like well by myself with some people I knew, and I was actually on the broadcast communications program where I, after 2 years, kind of figured that like I was just waffling, didn't know what I wanted to do. Went to UNO after those 2 years and decided to go into the psychology program. My initial idea was to go into and do like some sort of therapy. Had no idea like what focus was, just kind of to feel what was going right. And after a couple talks with my dad and a couple really good talks with my grandfather, we decided to go on a track focused more towards human resources. So I started taking programs in public speaking and business speaking, business management classes. I took all the human resources classes that they offered. I had a great teacher. Whose name was Zach Ziongi. Nah, someone who had like a bevy of like actual experience, which he was able to apply to his lessons, which was super helpful in like visualizing like what the responsibilities of the job were, and it was something I could see myself doing.
Excellent, excellent. So this is while you were working on your undergrad, correct?
Yes, yes, I was undergrad, which was a psychology degree with a minor in business management, which was the HR focus. I actually really lucked out because I graduated in 2019, right before the year happened.
The year?
COVID. See, that's why you don't mention it. It darkens everything.
Understood. Next question I have is, so you started working, and I think a year or two passed it where you had, I guess you were kicking around the idea of getting your master's. So talk to me a little bit about when you started working and after you graduated with your undergrad, and then what was the influences with your decision to look into going by way of the executive MBA program?
Sure thing, sure. So I started working, actually got my first HR job back in around 2021, like early 2021. I worked for Centerplate, which became Sodexo Live catering company for the Superdome. So I got to work at the same place where the Saints and the Pelicans all play, which was really cool. Had my own badge and everything. And I was there for about a year and a half, and I was kind of pigeonholed into like really just doing one specific job, which I was great at. And I just started noticing that the any upward trajectory I had there really wouldn't happen unless someone retired or quit. And no, I was fortunately and unfortunately, I was with a very like supportive group of people while I was there, barring some examples. So like there was no like there were some people who've been working in the same position for 20 plus years. Like they're like no one was planning on going anywhere. And so it was kind of like the first initial like hinting that I needed to do something else to get like a jump on my professional career. And then I just noticed that like I needed more of a financial boost, which I need like more either more experience, more education to justify moving forward with that sort of thing. And then I was also very fortunate enough to have two parents who loved me and liked me enough to keep me around. Because I was living at home with them and paying a significantly reduced amount of rent that I would pay other anywhere else. And they came to me and said like, "Hey, within like a certain time period, you need to be heading out, or if you go for your masters, that like can stymie it off." So I won't lie, and I'll say that a part of me getting my masters was a big part of like I'm not ready to move out yet. So
Right.
I'm aligned. Yeah, it wasn't the only consideration, but it wasn't a non-factor. So I did some of my research and I looked up to what programs they had, and one of the things was just like if I went back and got my master's the original, like the natural way, it'd be about 2.5 years, 2.5 to 3 years of more schooling. And like I'm gonna be honest, like I just gotten out of school for maybe a year and a half at that point, and just the thought of it was draining. But then I was very, very fortunate because UNO had what they called the executive program, where it'd be nonstop, a year and a half of classes. It'd only be on the weekend. It'd be like 7 to 8 hour classes on the weekend, every weekend for a year and a half. But if you were able to get through it, you got through it. And they laid the rules out to us like very plainly and very concisely. You couldn't get anything less than two C's in the entire course. A single D, you were out of the course.
Right.
Those were the two hards in there. And since I got an MBA, which focuses on marketing, it focuses on business management, focuses on human resources, focuses on accounting. It focused on everything. So there were some things I was going to be good with, some things I knew I was going to have to like struggle and like put in a lot of effort for. But after a while, just like seeing the benefits that would come for it, and I had a really good conversation with my stepfather, Jeremy, where he told me that like a lot of what we do in life provides doors. Our actions and our choices decide what doors are available and what doors close to us. And
Sure.
if I get this MBA, the amount of doors that will open for me and will be available to me are going to be so much more than if I don't do it, that I'm only hindering myself if I don't go for it. And I took it to heart and I decided to sign up for it. There's also a luncheon that gave us $500 off of tuition. That helped too.
Absolutely. Good stuff. So, knowing that you're working full time while doing this, so tell me some of the things that went through your mind with, okay, I have a full time job, but now my weekends that I would look forward to unwinding and relaxing is going to do a 180 because you're going to be very busy. So,
Yes.
talk to me about some of those things during your thought processes.
Well, funny enough, I actually didn't have to take a qualifying exam for the MBA. My grades were good enough, and
Okay.
the classes I took were exactly what they wanted people who had taken before the MBA. That I was just able, like, once I applied, they looked at it, took a glance, and like, you know what? Yeah, you're in. Good grades help y'all. And when I was working full time, it was gonna be, I knew it was gonna be an adjustment, but it wasn't like I wasn't a stranger to having a job and going to school. I had a part time job while I was getting my undergrad, and I used to work every single weekend while I was taking my undergrad. I used to work at nights. So it wasn't as hard as a transition as some people might think. And even though those classes would be from like, 9 to 3 or 9 to 4 for those days, I mean, that's still an afternoon that you have available to you. That's still 5 days a week that you're not in school, that you're just in regular, work time. So it's not
Hmm.
like all of your time isn't being eaten up. It's just imagine. Sometimes I had to imagine, especially when like all my homeworks were good and I didn't have a test and we were just learning the subjects. That some days you just gotta treat it like you're doing yard work. It's a long process during that day, but once you're done, and you get to go home and relax.
Well, also, I think you really took advantage of being of doing this process while you're young.
Yes, it does help. I also had a very large benefit compared to a lot of my classmates when I started, because there were several classmates I had who didn't have their own means of transportation, so they needed help getting to class. There were a lot of people there who had children, and some had kids and some had teenagers who were like, like in their own process of becoming adults, and that I know is a lot. That's a lot of work in and of itself. I remember
Right.
me. I knew I was at work sometime, and there were some people who were, let me see, who had different full time responsibilities. Where I
Sure.
didn't have kids, I wasn't married, I had my own means of transportation, and there was nothing stopping me from going back and forth. I had a lot of advantages when I started the MBA, and a good part of it was kind of just because I started it early.
No, I totally agree because I had two colleagues that I worked with for many years, John Herron and Marty Cox, and they both went through executive MBA programs. I don't remember if it was Tulane or Loyola. I'm not sure which ones, but anyway, they were working full time with children, and so I know they had some hurdles that they had to overcome. Everyday life kind of challenges when you have kids and working and all that type of stuff. So again, kudos to you for really realizing that when you're at a point in life when those I'll call them distractions aren't around of having married and kids and all that type of stuff, which can be a great support network. But as I always say in the show, we're going to keep it real. And with as the kids, as I call them, the mood killers, and it's a term of endearment, it does
Yeah.
cause some distraction and things that are going on. And I'm sure you heard from your classmates when those types of things did happen.
The fun thing that the MBA program did was that they put everyone into groups of six, because I think we had like 50 plus people in the program when we started, and
Okay.
they tried to separate the groups into people from like diverse backgrounds and everything. And
Right.
my group started out at six. We were down to three at the end of it, but we had an
Oh, so y'all
engineer
lost
and
three along the way.
we lost two people in the first month. I wasn't the only one there who like didn't have like, all the other like responsibilities and stuff, but I was one. I think one of the two or three people who had finished school, took a year or two off, came back in like refreshed and ready, and like just being able to have that like good mix of perfect timing.
Yeah, and with not that much time passing in between being a full time student and then going
Yeah,
into
so I
the
still
the
remember
that
how
had to
to.
be big
Yeah,
plus.
I still remember how to study, how to write papers, which was a super big help. But yeah, it was it's really just one of those things where like you start. I think a big part of the MBA program was like putting us in those groups, was being able to like see what's going on in other people's lives, because like even for those who weren't full time working, the people you're working with, like, work is not the only thing going on in their life. So
Right.
if you gotta do projects and stuff, you gotta be able to work with people who are gonna have shit happen. They
So let's transition for a second. So while you're in, I guess let's say after you finish the program, thinking about going through it, looking back, in other words, I like to mix kind of the challenging with the positive. So let's go with the challenging first. What were some of the things that you thought were some of the major challenges and or hurdles that you experienced throughout the program? So give me one or two examples if you would. Just for somebody that's listening that is kicking this around and they're like, man, I don't know if I want to do this or not, or it's going to be
Right.
too
No,
much of a
that's
pain in the butt.
totally. There were two things in particular. One was that math has never been my best subject, because I just sometimes things don't. Yeah, sometimes things don't click. Sometimes I'm just looking at it and being like someone made this up to mess with me. Just math can be hard, and accounting is like a little bit better because a good bit of it's made to make sense. It's made to
Right.
show how numbers and businesses work. Statistics really helps because statistics make sense. But there were I think at least four, maybe five to six accounting, statistics, just math classes, which I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't really expecting when I started this, and they were tough. They were hard. I needed help. I needed every single extra credit point and help I could get when it was going on. I asked for help. I asked for tutoring. I'm glad I did, because I can tell you straight up, if I had not done that, I would not have passed. They were tough, and because the program is only on the weekends, doesn't stop, and each class, no class. You have to understand, classes that usually would last like 4 to 5 months for a regular school year,
Hmm.
you got a month and a half at most that they are lightning round nonstop. So you need to be at the classes. You need to write notes. You need to get the material. And if you are falling behind, you need to get your ass up and go. Because if you don't, you're going to
Right.
fail. That happened. My class went from a class of like 56 people to 31 people. People got knocked out of this thing because of those classes because they just weren't able to keep up, or the subject material just like it was going too fast for them. I know there were some people I knew who were struggling.
We'll be right back to In the Pocket with J Bo right after this message. Bayou Junction is a dynamic party band based in North Houston, dedicated to making every event unforgettable with their electrifying performances. Named to represent the best of the Bayou City of Houston and the bayous of New Orleans and Louisiana, we bring a rich blend of musical traditions that guarantee a fantastic time for all occasions. We bring this unique blend to every performance, making sure your event is filled with fun, energy, and great music. Let Bayou Junction Band be the highlight of your next event. Contact us today to book a performance that will have everyone talking. You can reach us at bayou.junction at yahoo.com. That's bayou.junction at yahoo.com.
There were people who, like me, would like hit the desk when they came up to a problem that they couldn't solve because they just couldn't remember the process. And that's for me. There are classes in this program that are going to be your weak suit, and they're gonna be tough. Um, and I was very fortunate enough that I had an accountant who was on my team who was able to help us all with like learning like the concepts that we really couldn't understand during the class time, and I was able to get through it. But it was I guess like that would be like the physically demanding part of it, if that makes sense.
Right,
Like that the
right.
actual like that actual class.
One of the things that I thought was going to probably hit you from a tangent is that math part, because I know with your undergrad being in psychology, but I know you had some business classes. I'm like, man, I hope that math doesn't hindering and hold them back. So what I'm seeing is that you found a resource to really help you out. And I know I preached to you guys when y'all were younger, you and your brother, use your resources to strengthen weaknesses, and you did
Yes.
that. So I think that's extremely important to know. So if you don't have the strongest math background, this is possible to do, is what you're saying.
Yes. I didn't. Math was my hardest subject in all of my schooling time. I had to retake a class when I was in taking my undergrad because I think it was like one of my trick classes. It was a combination of like not putting forth that much of an effort and just really struggling with it. I didn't make a
Hmm.
single C in my entire program. I got a B through all of them. I beat
Nice.
it. The second and probably the hardest part and through the entire thing was the mental exhaustion. At some point in the middle towards the end, it's nonstop projects. The homeworks are super long, and the tests are like some of them when it was in the accounting classes they were getting harder, but most of the other classes, especially the classes around like management and marketing, I did really well with
Hmm.
those. I didn't struggle at all
Nice.
with those. But they're just even if you're doing well, even if you're succeeding, you're thriving, like there's a moment where you're feeling like good because people are asking you for help and advice. There is a mental exhaustion because you're waking up on the 45th Saturday at 8 a.m., knowing that you have to get into your car, have a 40-minute drive to your class, and stay in the classroom for another 45 minutes on a topic that you probably don't care about. Exhausting, and because it doesn't stop. It's a year and a half, and I really got to a point where it was at the last 3 months, and I was just like, it got to a point where like even in classes I was doing good or I was interested in, I was having trouble like staying focused in class. I was having trouble like not falling asleep. I was having trouble just going through the motions. And it's just like that's the real big danger of the executive program. It's nonstop, so you gotta have the mental fortitude for it. I was very fortunate enough because like I brought up those concerns with my mother. I brought up those concerns with one of the teachers where I was having just some tiredness, and they were really able to help me out, give me some little programs, little pointers to really like get my mind back into the game. Which really helped. It did also, I will say this, to end the program really helped because the last thing that we did was technically like a video game, and that just brought all my synapses back to be like, oh, what? Oh, we're doing
Of
something fun?
course.
Okay.
Of course. So, along with the hurdles and the challenges you had, which was very well brought out, Casey, thank you. Talk to me about some of the more rewarding experiences that you went through, and maybe give me one or two examples of, hey man, this is worth it. Hey, wow, this is great. Give me a couple of your wow moments.
Yes, some of the wow, some of the really great moments where there was one time where we had a program, one of our classes, I believe it was the last class, and the last class is kind of like a capstone. That's where you apply everything that you've learned in the program into the class. And we were doing this game where it applied like I guess like a chaos theory thing. But what it did was that every group was part of a shoe company, and the goal was to see how well you were able to sell and make a profit off of your shoes in like a year long period. And so every 2 weeks they would push it forward by like a month or two. The first week, everyone had like a good idea of what to do. I obviously like my HR background, putting for like good benefits for employees and everything. But what happened was that one of the people working, he was actually like this guy who left his team and wanted to do everything by himself. What he did was that he spent a crap ton of money on like promoters and advertisers, and put all of his money making just low quality shoes, but at like an absorbent amount, like a huge amount. And so what he did was that he like crashed everybody else because he was selling shoes en masse for cheap, and he outbid everyone for advertisers. So he had more advertisement, which is huge in that system, and he was able to sell like more shoes than everyone else combined. And we all realized that what he was doing was that he was kind of, I guess the phrase is kind of like salting the earth, because it made it so that like no matter what, like we would either need to follow his lead on that, or he would just kick us in the dust, because we would never be able to match those numbers. He got a massive head start. But then what? And this is where I'm getting to the point I was talking about, where one of the groups, I think it was like groups 2 and 4, came to our group. We were group 3, and another group, and said like, "Hey, he's screwing with everybody. We're consolidating, and we're all going to be working together to screw him over." And I was like, "That sounds awesome. Let's do it." Because there weren't any rules that we couldn't work together and do anything like that. The whole thing was just like, no, you guys make decisions on what you think your businesses would do, and like if we think someone's burning the field, then we can work together to kick him out. Consolidation
Right.
corporate. It was weird doing it, but it worked, and he ended up getting last place, and we all shared, like we were all within like I think like 1 to 3 million difference within like first to fifth place.
Well, when you go out there and you're going to be a lone ranger and you're going to try to take out competitors, then they're going. It's all in fair game. That's capitalism to come back to get you and
Yeah, that,
make
hey, that's how
themselves
we work.
successful.
What we learned to work with.
Exactly. So tell me, understood the process that y'all did, but what was the rewarding experience to you about that exercise?
It was a cool thing to realize um that when you're in this business and when you're growing, is that like you're still part of a team. And then you know because like you can kind of see it in the real world equivalent, is that because I knew, let's say I was in company A, but because I knew and went to classes with and talked with and had a good relationship with people from companies B, C, and D, I had relations and resources and connections outside of my immediate area. And I think that's one of the lessons that, like, even when they talk about like most of the lessons are focused on like internal and how to run and make things work. This was one of the examples of just like, what we're also trying to teach you is that like connections are a huge part of making it in business and of just like moving forward, and it's kind of just part of the human experience, that if you're going to be moving forward in this, you need to learn how to make connections. The reason I have a job, the job I have right now with premium parking, is because when I was looking, I asked the we had like a shared like Discord chat server for the Grasses program, and I asked somebody, it's like, hey, does anyone know any companies that are looking for like any like HR positions? And one of them responded in a day. It's like, hey, I saw that they were looking for people a couple of days ago that I used to work for them. They're pretty good. You should check them out. and I got a job and I work with a bunch of great people now. It it had an active like I haven't talked to these people, most of these people, in over a year and a half. And the second I was able to reach out, someone helped me for no other reason because I went to school with them. We were cool with each other and we could help each other out. We got to be able to help each other out. That's how we move forward.
Excellent, excellent. So, what you're telling me there is just the contacts that you made and the friendships
Yes.
that you
Yes.
formed with your classmates, was already been beneficial to you. So, do you still keep in touch with one, two, or three people every now and then,
We
or?
we actually what we do is that we always make sure that on the anniversary of our final class we
Uh
try
huh.
to get as many people together to go to the same bar that we went to just like celebrate to see how everyone's doing, see how far people have moved up. It's really cool.
Well, cool. Well, hopefully, Film will actually get to view your podcast here today that we're doing.
That'd be cool.
Casey, I think that's amazing. And so, if you were looking back now, did you accomplish, in your opinion, did you accomplish your mission of what you set out to do when you first started the program?
I mean, I got the MBA, so that's 100% yes.
Okay, but I mean that's an objective answer. Give me a
Right.
subjective response.
I think there's still some time before I can give like the real subjective answer because I've only been out of it for 2 years. I've
Mhm.
been moving up in my jobs and in my experience, which has been great. And the masters have been a huge part of that. I think the longer I'm moving forward in my career, the longer I'm able to apply what I learned, the longer I'm able to just like see the fruits of my actions, is the better and more positive that answer is going to be. Because right now I've been on an upward trajectory and it's been a little slow, but it's still going up. And like I feel like without that masters, I wouldn't have the confidence in what I would be able to apply for and go for.
Sure. Well, it's what you put into it, and that's what counts
Exactly.
because you can have the piece of paper, but if you're not doing the other actions and the things that you have to go through, then it doesn't do any good. But the purpose that you're putting towards with having your master's is helping that upward trajectory in your career right now. And we won't disclose any ages, but you're in your high 20s right now, and
Yes.
so that'll be something good for you as you move into your 30s and your 40s. So it's outstanding thing. It's almost like learning how to play golf. Once you know how to play and all that, it's going to stick with you for the rest of your career. And but on a much more higher academic, more professional, serious level, having that MBA is something that's going to be with you all the time as a foundation, as part of
Oh
Casey
yeah.
Boudoin. You know.
Yep. That's never going away.
So let me ask you this as a last question. So if someone is thinking about going through this process and they're on the fence about it, or they're just procrastinating with their decision on this, what advice, practical advice, would you give them besides, "Hey, man, go ahead and do it"? What would you say to someone? So, like, I came up to you. So, Casey, I'm thinking about going into the MBA program over at XYZ University. And I don't know. I keep putting it off and I'm thinking about it. One day I'm good, one day I'm not. And I'm a married guy in my late 30s and I have two kids. What would you tell me?
All right. Well, the first thing I'd say is that the longer you wait, the harder it is. Because what's happening is that, like, even like you're married, you're in your 30s. Well, kids are gonna grow up. Responsibilities are gonna become bigger. Financial responsibilities might become more. The future gets more unpredictable the longer you wait. So the earlier you start, the better, because you're working with the information you have right now. The second thing I would say is that you got like to help yourself, you got to do your research. See what programs they offer. See how long a commitment this would be. See if you can afford it. See if you need to take out loans. This is a major financial decision, not just a major life decision. So that's going to be those are huge things to consider.
Hmm.
See if you have like a support structure to go through with it. You need to have an idea of like if it falls through, if you're going to keep on trying or if you're just going to give it one go. I myself, when I had to think about it, I realized that the longer I waited, the harder financially it was going to be for me. So I also knew that because I didn't have any student loans for my undergrad, I had to better rate than I would have for my graduate, so I was able to take out loans for that. And my loans actually weren't that high because I took the executive program, which was a shorter program, so I didn't need to take out as many loans because the classes went by faster.
Right.
Those are decisions that I had available to me because I could have gone the regular course where the classes were like more paced. I would have had a lot more time, a lot more leeway, but the financial burden would have become a lot more. There's a lot
Sure.
of decisions that go into this. What you need to, but the two most important things is you need to do your research, like know what you're jumping into. This is like the master program isn't a gaping black void that is in the unknown. It is a deep pool, but if you look in the pool and you put on some goggles, you can navigate through it. And you know, and again, just the longer you wait, the harder, more unpredictable it's going to be because things are going to come up. Crazy stuff's going to happen. A pandemic might happen. A tsunami might happen. Crap will happen. So focusing on, let's see if you can do it now. Really do your research and make the consideration. And if you believe you can do it, make the jump.
And I guess one thing for a married person to consider is to ensure that you have that total support dedication from your spouse, especially if you
Yeah.
have kids and your support network of family and friends, because all of your weekends are tied up for
Yes.
what, a year and a half. So you basically don't have any weekends. You're going to be in class and you're going to be studying and you're going to be on projects. So having that support from your spouse, siblings, parents, friends, neighbors is going to come into play, I'm sure at some point, probably more often than you think when you're going through this process. And also if you're a single person and yeah, you may not have kids, you may not be married, but there's still things in life that are going to happen. It may not be so it's all relative to that individual and how they handle that, I would think. So, but like I said, I've had two good friends of mine, colleagues, John Heron and Marty Cox, that have gone through this and succeeded with families, strong spousal and family support, and they made it through. And I know they're happy as can be that they did it. So, big kudos and props to them as well as you. Big kudos and props to you, Casey. So, well, I guess that's it. And is there anything we missed that you wanted to bring up out about the Executive MBA program for people,
Um,
good, bad,
it
or
isn't for
indifferent?
yeah, it's people who I went through it who just uh like they thought they could do it. They thought that the faster schooling process would be better, and it wasn't. It is a tough program. Master's programs are tough. They are a big check to see like that you've learned the prior material and like it's not handholdy. There's like maybe one or two gimmies, but the whole point of the program is to show that like you know what you're doing and that you're going to excel at what you do. There are some people who couldn't handle it and some people who could. But don't feel like you not being able to stick with a certain program means that you weren't capable of it. Some people have different ways of absorbing information. Some people can do it fast, some people can do it slow. It depends on what works for you. Or so like don't get disencouraged because you messed up one time. Just
Sure.
because you messed up one time doesn't mean it's the end of the world. That's something that a lot of people and I had to learn. So just get like as long as you can get back up, you can still make the chance and get it again.
Good deal. Well, man, I want to thank you for being a guest on today's show. And this conversation about earning your MBA while working a full time job has been pretty enlightening. And I hope our audience, I'm sure well, I don't hope, I'm sure they'll find it very enlightening as well. So, again, really appreciate you being on today and great job. Love how you're representing the school with the UNO hat on as well. I see that there. And again, just thank you. So this is going to be the final episode of season one. This is episode 10. Again, we'll be starting off season two here real soon. And season two, our theme will be talking about. So we're going to be talking about different subjects here and there, all kind of interesting guests lined up for season two. And we'll talk more about that coming up soon. So, but one more time, Casey, really appreciate you being on today. And we're in discussions with his people, with our people, to have him on as a guest co-host in the future. And also, he's going to be doing some technical consulting with me behind the scenes, which he's actually helped out with. We just thank him for that too. So, again, any parting words you have for us, Casey, before we sign off here?
Video quality brought to you by Boudoin Productions.
There we go. With that, we'll catch you on the flip side next time with In the Pocket with J Bo. Thank you.